Just did an introduction, eternally speaking. My video cut off, so I'm about to jump into the essential Zohar, the source of Kabbalistic wisdom. Remember I told you everything is in duality. You know, esoteric, inner essence, and the exoteric, which would be external and physical. So we're going to go into some esoteric knowledge, and this is out of the essential Zohar, and we're going to go into chapter 8, the unnameable chaos. All right, let's get right to it. For this video cut off, I know it's been a lot of weird energy since yesterday, and a lot of weird stuff has been happening with these electronic devices, everything. Me even talking to people on the phone, me trying to get a message across to them. I notice everything's being tampered with, but I don't care. I'm relentless, and I'm gonna keep going. So let's get right to it. There are two female presence in the opening chapters of the Bible. One, of course, is Eve, the mother of all the living. Another female is there also, although the Zohar refers to her as without gender, lurking between the lines of text, even as the Kabbalists teach that she hides in the shadows in unlit doorways. Beyond the book of Genesis, this same extremely negative, in fact, demonic entity appears several times in the Bible. Usually, she is disguised as another character. It is she and her equally evil sister who appeared before King Solomon as two harlots, arguing over possession of a baby. The power of the negative entity is taken very seriously in Kabbalah. We must guard against her influence at all times. We are not to speak or write her name, yet she does appear in the scriptures in the book of Isaiah 34 and 14, though in some translation, night hag or screech owl is substituted for her forbidden name. And the Zohar, of course, never refers to her by name. She is called the Clipper, Heb Shell, which also denotes a kind of husk that can form around us when we succumb to negative and self-serving influences. Yet Kabbalah does not describe the Clipper as utterly alien to the Creator's light. She is composed of degraded light, fallen light, corroded light. The Clipper is like a powerful battery that has lain for many years on the ocean floor, which, as the Zohar explains, is exactly where this vile and dangerous female relegated to spend a great deal of time. As with most biblical characters, the Clipper is understood both as metaphor and a physical entity. In the biblical text, she can be construed as a personification of corrupt, aggressive, or sexual feelings, but she is also depicted as a very malignant reality of our lives. The Zohar tells us that the Clipper came into being on the fifth day of creation, as described in Genesis 1:21. She is identified with the great sea monster mentioned in that verse, and with the multitudes of creeping beings that the sea brought forth. Immediately after her creation, the Clipper flew towards heaven, where she found herself attracted to the spark of divine light that surrounded the Creator. These sparks are the small faces in the following Zohar passages. They can be thought of as angels, of which Kabbalah describes several types. The lowest category of angels is simply a flicker of energy that localized in a particular form, sometimes for only a moment. The Clipper attaches herself to those beings until God forced her to descend to Eden, where Adam and Eve had been created. Drawn to Adam's beauty, the Clipper described union with him, but realized also that she could not distract him from the splendor of Eve, whose beauty was one with that of heaven itself. The Clipper then returned to the upper world, tried once again to conjoin with the angels, but soon found herself cast by God into the sea from which she had first emerged. The Zohar describes these events. When the Clipper saw Eve clinging to the side of Adam, who represented the beauty of above, and saw in them the complete form, she flew up from her place and wanted to cling to the small faces of Adam and Eve as before. However, the guards at the gate did not allow this. The Creator scolded the Clipper and cast her into the depths of the sea. The Clipper is associated with what is covered up and shrouded in murkiness. Concealment often has positive and connotations in the Kabbalah when its purpose is to reveal the light of God. But this hiding in the shadows is decidedly negative. It is based in shame, and its intention is to avoid the consequences of prior action, as the Zohar recounts. The Clipper remains in the sea until the sin of Adam and Eve. The Creator removed the Clipper from the depths of the sea. The Clipper took power over all those children, the small faces of mankind, who deserve punishment for the sins of their fathers. This is a feminine energy, which is a judgment energy. And as it says right here, the Clipper took power over those children, the small faces of mankind, who deserve punishment for the sins of their fathers. It makes sense. The Clipper's diabolical negative energy is drawn to children, the angels of the world, just as it was attracted to the true angels in the upper world. This is consistent with the teachings of the children are in a sense of closer to God than other human beings because they just came out the spiritual world. That makes sense too. Their souls were more recently in the upper world. That's why babies are very more advanced. You always see them staring off into the distance. They're still connected to the spiritual realm. They're just adapting to the physical plane now. They start to lose the memories of stuff and that attachment once they start getting, these jabs, these worldly traditional jabs that alter the DNA and the RNAs where the spirit lies with the ether. Notice how the Zohar is unconstrained by conventional ideas of the linear time. If Adam and Eve had just fallen, how could the Clipper already be making raids on the progeny of future generations? This is not a mistake, but the characteristics of prophetic narratives, just as perspective did not appear in the graphic art until the Renaissance. Continuity of time is not a imperative in the Kabbalah text. There is a clear intention to subvert or even violate the demands of the realism. Like modern physics, Kabbalah teaches that the past has already occurred but is also still occurring. In charge of the one primordial soul, we have already done things that as individuals we are continually rising. In Kabbalah, once something has happened, it keeps happening forever. Oh, this is that cycle. That reincarnation cycle or them attributes. And it makes sense. It makes sense because I read this somewhere before. Or at least until, I read it here before, but I don't just go with one source. I always find the same thing in other texts. Or at least until the final transformation and the return to paradise. Returning from the depredations across space and time, The Clipper made her way to the gates of Eden, where she rested beside the flaming sword described in Genesis. This sword can be likened to the scale of Zeus in Greek myth. It manifests mercy or judgment alternatively, and when judgment is expressed, the Clipper returns to the physical realm. The Clipper wanders around the world and approaches the gates of the Garden of Eden and sat down near the blades of the sword, for it was the flame of the sword that the Clipper had originated. When the bright blade of the sword revolved and changed to judgment, the Clipper fled. She roams the world and finds children deserving of punishment. The Clipper laughs with the children, then kills them. Again, moving from the past to the future and then back to the past, the Zohar mentions the Clipper's intercourse with Cain, as usual. She is rejected or frustrated in her first attempt at connection, but she persists with evil energy. Many of the negative forces loose in this world are the offspring of Cain and the Clipper. When Cain was born, the Clipper was unable to cleave to him, but later she approached him, cleaved to him, and manifested to him earthbound spirits and flying spirits. You know, it talks about that in the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon about these elemental spirits and the elements. You know, they in the air, they in the ether too. When I was just doing a video the other day on the 9 ethers and 6 ethers, the number 9. It was breaking that down when it was correlating with the Islamic tradition and the Hebrew tradition. About the jinns and the the angels of light, just pure light beings, and then those angels made of smokeless fire. While these teachings may seem quite remote from our everyday experience, the history of Adam after the fall has definite lessons for contemporary life. When he realizes the terrible consequences of his actions at the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the Zohar describes Adam's descent into what might today be called a state of depression, in the sense that depression is disconnection from light. Adam had intercourse with the female spirit for 130 years until Na'amah came. Because of her beauty, she led the sons of Elohim, Azza, and Azazel astray. She bore them all sorts of new klipot. Evil spirits and demons spread out from her into the world. They wandered around during the night. Whenever they find men sleeping alone in their own homes, they hover over them and cling to them, arousing lustful desires and having offspring by them. That is very true, That used to happen to me when I was not so bright as I am now, I used to always wonder what that was, but I actually seen this in real time. I was taken out of my body. I had an outer body experience where I was half asleep and half woke. In the past, I was told that it was I was a witch riding my back. Some crazy stuff. And then I heard about the sleep paralysis. And then now, as I'm increased in knowledge, I know that once you go into that state, that means you have a spiritual awareness where you can astral project and you can go to multiple different planes. But that means that you're going to see both sides. You're going to see the good side and you're going to see the bad side. Whatever I saw, I was consciously aware, and I was focusedly tuned into it. I seen a bunch of faces moving around me, and I was on my knees on the floor trying to get up. But before it happened to me, I was having lustful thoughts in my bed. So this is very true. But, that was then, this is now, and I ain't afraid to admit it. And, you live, you learn, but everything happens for a reason. In a sense, Adam fell into the same trap twice. His first bite of the forbidden fruit was not the real cause of the trouble. It was the reactive second bite that really manifested desire to receive for himself alone. And now the despondent over his interpretation of the past, he believed himself beyond all redemption. Who has not at one time or another succumbed to the same kind of thinking? Who has not fallen victim to the extremely potent weapon of the negative side? Kabbalah teaches that this voluptuous acceptance of defeat is really a kind of egomania in reverse. We convince ourselves that our failures exist on such a grand scale that not even the Creator can deliver us from them. But it is really self-important that makes this self-pity possible. It is critical that we remain aware of the existence of the Clipper. Here goes the end. And practice spiritual discernment in our active pursuit of the light, while desire to requisite to draw light to ourselves, desire can be implemented in negative ways. With what prescience the Zohar anticipates the psychology of addiction, and addict, whether of drugs, alcohol, gambling, or sex, is understood by contemporary psychotherapy as failed seekers after true joy. An addict is a person with a strong need and desires, which is all too good. Kabbalah would say. You know what's crazy? This, what I was just telling y'all about, it happened to me when I was under the influence of drugs. This is when I wanted to get high every day. I wanted to numb my pain. I was still into my spiritual awakening. That nothing could never take my spirituality away from me. But me being honest, I was in a drug state, and I was thinking about something lustful. And I had that sleep paralysis, whatever you want to call it, witch riding your back, astral project. I came out my body. I was consciously aware of it, and I seen what happened in real time, And that wasn't the first time it happened. I had multiple experiences like that. Strong needs and desires, which is all to the good. Kabbalah would say, but out of this strong need comes an impatience to satisfy it quickly and intensely, and then because the intensity fades, to satisfy it again and again. Satisfy, however, is not really the right word. Addiction really palliates genuine fulfillment. It is a desire for the light that is pursued in the wrong way. That is very true. Kodash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah. And this is what I've been doing early in the morning now. I go out in front of the sun, barefooted. I ground my feet in the earth, and I say, Shemesh, Shemesh, Shemesh. Then I say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Ashe means the ether. And then I say, Kodash, 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 holy, holy, holy. Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah, meaning Lord of hosts. Me being a host, a vessel, extracting the energy from above, below, into my temple. Salah, so be it, I'm out.